My daughter came home from a family visit and quietly said, "Auntie told me to stay in the parking lot while they went to the toy store." She'd been there for 4 hours. Alone. I didn't scream. I drove straight to the house, walked inside. And without thinking twice, The second my daughter Ava told me, I saw red. We were standing by the trunk. Snow was falling, soft and quiet, like it didn't know the kind of storm that was about to erupt. Ava had her little travel bag in one hand and her stuffed fox tucked under the other arm. She looked tired. I figured it was just the usual. Too much sugar, too many late nights with her cousins, not enough sleep. That's the kind of tired you expect after 5 days with family. I buckled her in and we started heading home. I was talking to my husband about the leftover ham my mom promised us when Ava suddenly spoke up. So quiet I almost missed it. "Auntie told me to stay in the parking lot while they went to the toy store." I blinked. I looked at her in the rearview mirror and asked what she meant. She didn't meet my eyes. She just looked out the window and kept talking. They said they'd be quick. But it got dark. I stayed in the car. I played games for a while. Then my tablet died. I got cold, but I didn't want to open the door. I thought maybe they forgot. Then she added, barely above a whisper, she said not to tell you or it would ruin Christmas. That was the moment. That exact moment. I wanted to turn the car around, drag my sister out of whatever warm, smug little corner of the house she was in, and make her sit in the middle of a freezing parking lot for 20 hours with nothing but her pride and her damn phone. No jacket. No snacks. Just pure, isolated silence while the people she trusted forgot about her. 4 hours. My child sat alone in a parked car while my sister, her aunt, paraded through toy aisles with her own kids and picked out presents like everything was fine. I didn't scream. I didn't say a word to Ava. I just turned to my husband and said, "Drive to their house." No. The silence in the car was unbearable. My husband knew something was wrong. I was shaking. Not crying. Shaking. My fingers kept curling and uncurling on my lap. I could feel this burning pressure building behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let it out. Not yet. 20 minutes later we pulled up to the house. It looked like something out of a catalog. The lights on the porch twinkled. Wreath on the door. Fake snow dusted over the windowsill. Inside I could hear music. Laughter. Plates clinking. Claire's boys were shouting something about a Nerf gun. I didn't knock. I opened the door and walked in like I owned the place. My mom was in the kitchen icing cupcakes. My dad was in his recliner half asleep. Claire was on the couch with her legs up, wearing those stupid fuzzy socks she always buys on sale after Halloween. Her husband was pouring hot cider into mugs. There were already opened presents everywhere. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, you're early." I didn't speak. I walked straight to her, grabbed her by that messy blonde bun she always twists up when she's too lazy to wash her hair, and yanked her right off the couch. "Heart," she shrieked. One of the mugs dropped. My mom gasped. Claire was on her knees before she could even react, and I didn't give her time to ask questions. I slapped her across the face, open palm full force. The sound cracked through the living room like a gunshot. She scrambled backwards, grabbing at her face. My brother-in-law moved forward, stunned, but my husband stepped between us. No one touched me. My dad stood up, confused. "Nancy, what the hell is going on?" I looked at Claire, breathing heavy, still on the floor. "For hours," I said. "She left my daughter in a freezing car for 4 hours. Everyone froze. And then the room exploded. My mom was the first to move. She dropped the tray of cupcakes she was frosting, and the metal clanged hard against the tile. Frosting hit the floor, the oven door, her apron. She didn't even look down. My dad stood up slowly like he'd missed something but could feel in his gut that whatever just came out of my mouth wasn't a misunderstanding. Claire stayed on the floor holding her cheek, blinking up at me like I'd just dropped out of the sky and lost my mind. She looked embarrassed more than scared. Like I had overreacted and humiliated her in front of her perfect little living room. Then she opened her mouth. What came out was the most detached, delusional thing she could have possibly said. "Bae, calm down. She was fine." My husband shifted beside me. He didn't say anything, just kind of squared up like he was bracing for impact. I took a step forward and he reached out, subtle, palm to my arm, keeping me from lunging again. I wasn't going to hit her. Not yet. But if she said anything else like that, fine, I said. Claire stood, brushing off her leggings like it was just another Tuesday. She looked around the room like she expected someone to back her up. He was in the car. She had her tablet. I cracked a window. "It wasn't that cold, Nancy. We weren't gone that long." She didn't even cry. I just stared at her. "Do you have any idea what you did? You left a 7-year-old child alone in a car. In December. For 4 hours. For Claire." Claire scoffed and crossed her arms. "It wasn't 4 hours. Don't be dramatic. It was maybe 2. I checked on her when we came out of the first store. She was fine." That's when I felt it again. that throb behind my eyes, that pressure crawling up the back of my neck. I looked at my mom. Did you know? She shook her head immediately, eyes wide. Oh, I had no idea. Claire didn't tell us anything. I thought she took all the kids to the play place that day. That's what she said. My dad finally spoke. Claire, he said slowly. Is this true? She hesitated, then shrugged. I mean, technically. But nothing happened. He's okay. And she's not some helpless baby. That was it. That was the last thread snapping. I turned toward Ava, who was standing in the hallway holding her stuffed fox, watching everything unfold like it wasn't real. I looked back at Claire. You told her to lie to me, I said. You told her that if she said anything she'd ruin Christmas. Claire tried to roll her eyes, but it didn't land. Her face was blotchy now, her mouth twitching. I just didn't want her to make a big deal about it, she muttered. You always overreact to everything. That's when her oldest, Qley, came in. Big grin on his face, holding one of those giant plastic toy store bags. Mommy, look what I found. This is the one we got after the pizza place, remember? The day Ava had to stay in the car, 'cause you said she would complain too much. He looked up and stopped. The room had gone still. Claire's face turned the color of bone. My mom stepped back like she'd been slapped. My dad looked over at Ava, and for the first time all night he really saw her. He walked over and kneeled down. Honey, he said gently, how long were you in the car that day? Ava held up 4 fingers. That was it. That was all she needed to do. No one spoke. Not even Claire. Then my husband said to me, call her godmother. She's not staying here tonight. I nodded. I didn't even look back. We walked out without another word. Claire didn't follow us. My mom didn't try to stop me. My dad didn't say a thing. But as we got to the door, I heard my mom behind us. She said Claire's full name, first, middle, and last, in that voice that strips all the power out of you. The voice every child knows means you crossed a line you can't uncross. And for once, Claire didn't have anything smart to say back. We dropped Ava off at her godmother's on the way home. She didn't ask questions. Just opened the door, saw Ava's face and nodded. That's the kind of friend she is. Ava didn't cry. She sat down on the couch, pulled a blanket up to her chin, and turned the volume up on her favorite cartoon like nothing had happened. That's what gutted me the most. She was used to pretending nothing happened. My husband and I got back in the car without speaking. The ride was quiet. The streets were glowing with lights and inflatable snowmen, and every front porch seemed to be doing its best to look like joy itself. But in our car there was no joy. Just that sick feeling you get when someone you trusted turns out to be a different kind of person altogether. When we got home, I didn't take off my coat. I walked straight into the kitchen, opened my laptop, and logged into our bank account. There it was. The joint account I had opened with Claire 3 years ago when she was trying to get back on her feet. She'd never really gotten back on anything. I'd paid her phone bill, her rent twice, her car insurance more times than I can remember, birthday parties for the boys, Christmas gifts, grocery store runs when she forgot her wallet. She always promised she'd send the money later. Later never came. I transferred my portion out, froze the account, requested the removal paperwork. It took 10 minutes. I stared at the screen for a while afterward. My husband came in and sat beside me. He didn't ask what I was doing. He knew. We didn't sleep that night. I tried to, but every time I closed my eyes I saw Ava, curled up in the back seat, knees to her chest, waiting. No one deserves that, especially not from family. By morning the calls started. First it was my mom. Nancy, call me back, please. Then my dad. One short voicemail. We need to talk. It's about Claire. I ignored both. Then Claire texted. Paragraph after paragraph. Half rant, half guilt trip. You made me look like a monster in front of my kids. Ava is fine. You're overreacting like always. Do you even understand how much pressure I'm under? You think you're perfect? You left her with me. Maybe you should look in the mirror before judging me. I stared at the message for a long time. My husband read over my shoulder, exhaled, and said she really thinks she's the victim. I didn't answer her. I didn't even delete it. I wanted it there like a reminder of exactly who she really was when the mask slipped. Around noon my mom called again. This time I answered. We know everything, she said before I could speak. Claire came clean. Sort of. Qley said something first. Then Ava told us the rest. What did Claire say? I asked. That she just wanted to enjoy a few hours with her boys without babysitting someone else's kid. There was her truth. My truth was simpler. I was done. I'm cutting her off, I said. No more gifts, no more bills, no more money. I already closed the account. She's on her own. My mom didn't argue. Not like she used to. She just said, I don't know what happened to her. But we're not excusing this. I went through every closet in the house that afternoon. Every bag marked for Claire's boys. Every gift, every stocking stuffer, Every stupid board game and toy lightsaber. All of it, gone. I loaded it into the car and drove straight to the store. What couldn't be returned I donated. Even the extra gloves I'd picked up for Claire. She once said hers always went missing and I'd remembered. That's the kind of thing I used to do. Always thinking ahead. Always covering her gaps. No more. That night Ava came home. We ate spaghetti and garlic bread and sat in our pajamas watching The Grinch. She laughed again. The sound felt like medicine. We didn't talk about Claire. We didn't need to. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. Because 2 days later, the day after Christmas, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My husband looked out the window, came back into the room and said 2 words. They're here. I opened the door. My parents stood on the porch. And behind them, standing in the cold without a coat, was Claire. Holding a single gift in her hands like it meant something. I didn't say anything. But I stepped aside and pointed inside. Dad, come in. Claire stayed exactly where she was. In the car, the engine still running. Claire didn't knock. She stood there on the porch like she was waiting to be invited into a party she wasn't sure was for her. Her eyes were red, hair unbrushed, cheeks blotchy and wind-chapped, holding a single gift wrapped in wrinkled foil paper. The gift looked crushed at one corner like she'd been squeezing it too hard the whole ride over. It didn't matter what was inside. It wasn't for Ava. I knew that much immediately. That gift was for show. Behind her, the engine of her car was still running, exhaust drifting into the air like slow smoke signals. The boys weren't in the car. That detail landed harder than it should have. She didn't even bring her kids. Just herself. Just the act. My parents stood between us. They didn't try to hide the tension. My mom's mouth was tight and my dad wouldn't make eye contact. I held the door open just enough for them to come inside. Claire took a single step like she was going to follow. I raised a hand. Only them. She froze. My parents walked in quietly and I shut the door behind them. The lock clicked louder than it should have. For a minute, none of us said anything. My mom stood with her arms folded like she was holding something in. My dad sat down but didn't settle. Just perched on the edge of the couch like a man waiting for instructions. Then my mom said she's not sleeping. She hasn't eaten. She keeps pacing, whispering to herself. She says she made the worst mistake of her life. I didn't respond. She wants to apologize, my dad added. She's afraid of how far this has gone. Gone? I looked at him. You think I'm the one who took it too far? No, he said quickly. That's not what I meant. You raised both of us, I said. So tell me, who do you think taught Claire that if she ignored a problem long enough, someone else would clean it up for her? Neither of them answered. My mom sat down and pressed her hands to her face. Then the doorbell rang again. I opened it. Claire had stepped closer, holding that flattened gift with both hands like it was proof she still deserved to be let in. Her face had gone pale from the cold. I didn't think you'd actually shut me out, she said. I leaned against the doorframe and waited. She cleared her throat. I know I messed up. But this is getting ridiculous. You've got my parents in there like they're choosing sides, you're returning gifts, cutting off the account. I closed the account, I corrected. Not the same thing. He pushed the gift out like an offering. I got this for Ava before everything happened. It's not a bribe. I didn't take it. She stared at me for a second, then dropped her hand. Her voice dropped too. You left her with me. You trusted me. And maybe that was stupid. But it's not like she was locked in a trunk. That stopped me cold. What did you just say? Claire blinked. I mean, people leave kids in cars all the time. I stepped out, closing the door behind me. Say that again. She backed up slightly. I didn't mean it like that. You're not sorry, I said. You're just caught. That's the difference. Claire looked away. I turned to go back inside. Then she said something I didn't expect. I lost a job last week. I paused. What? That's why I took the boys to the mall. I didn't want them to feel like anything was wrong. I was scared. I needed them to think everything was normal. I didn't want them to see me falling apart. So I left Ava in the car. Just for a bit. And then it turned into hours. I didn't respond. I didn't want to tell you because I thought you'd look at me like this. Like I'm garbage. I stared at her. Claire, I said slowly. You could have told me you lost your house. Your job. Your mind. And I would have helped. But you left my daughter in the cold. For 4 hours. You didn't forget. You chose it. She didn't say anything. Go home, I said. Don't come back without a real apology. One where you don't talk about your pain. Just hers. She didn't fight it this time. She walked back to the car. But when she opened the door, she didn't get in. She leaned in, said something to the driver, and then slammed it shut. The car drove away. Claire stayed on the sidewalk alone without a coat, holding that wrinkled little gift. Inside, I poured tea for my parents. No one said a word for the first 15 minutes. Out the window, Claire sat down on the curb. Waiting. We didn't invite her back in. Not even when it started to snow. Claire stayed out there like she was making a statement, but I don't think even she knew what the statement was anymore. At first, I thought it was part of the performance. Sit in the cold, look miserable, guilt everyone inside into cracking the door back open. I'd seen her pull things like this before. Tantrums in disguise. Crying spells followed by backhanded apologies. But 20 minutes passed, then 30, and she was still out there. She hadn't moved. I watched her from the living room window. Knees pulled tight, arms wrapped around herself. The gift was still in her lap, soggy now, the wrapping torn slightly at one corner from how tightly she'd been holding it. She looked like a kid who missed the bus and didn't know who to call. The snow was coming down harder now. Not a blizzard, but enough to make you feel it. It stuck to her hair, her shoulders melted slowly down her back. And still she stayed. My mom was sitting on the couch with both hands wrapped around her tea, but she wasn't drinking it. She just stared into it like it might give her answers. My dad sat beside her, silent, calm, unreadable as ever. He's going to get frostbite, my mom said eventually. So did Ava, I replied. She flinched at that, but she didn't argue. That was something new. My mother, the lifelong peacemaker, didn't offer a single excuse. Not one weak line about stress or how motherhood is hard, or how Claire didn't mean it. Instead, she said something I didn't expect. We yelled at her. I looked up. That night after you left. We didn't let it go. We didn't comfort her. Your father was furious. He shouted louder than I've ever heard him shout. He said she had no business watching someone else's child if she couldn't even protect her own. He told her she needed help. Then she stopped and looked at me. He told her he was ashamed of her. My dad didn't speak, but his silence said everything. That word, ashamed, had weight in our house. It was never thrown around. My father had never said it to either of us growing up, not once. And hearing that he used it now, after all the years they'd cushioned her from consequences, it landed hard. She cried for 2 hours, my mom added softly. Said she didn't want to be like this. Said she just wanted to be seen as capable. Like you. I let out a breath. Not a laugh. Just something bitter and quiet. Claire has always wanted the praise that comes with being responsible. But never the actual responsibility. My mom nodded slowly like she didn't want to admit it but knew it was true. She wants to come inside, she said. She didn't say it. But she does. I looked out the window again. Claire was still sitting there. The snow was collecting in the folds of her sweatshirt. Her hair was stiff and wet. Her face had gone pale. She wanted to be warm while Ava froze in the dark, I said. She can sit for a while. My dad finally spoke. This is the first time we haven't defended her. She noticed. Maybe that's why she's not leaving. I didn't respond. Not right away. She had all the chances in the world to tell the truth, I said. Even after it happened. She could have apologized. She could have looked me in the eye and said she was scared, overwhelmed, stupid. I would have still hated it, but maybe I could have forgiven her. But instead she lied. Gaslit. Blamed me. No one said anything for a long while after that. Then my parents stood up. My mom placed her untouched tea back on the table. We should go. I walked them to the door. Claire saw them through the window and started to stand. She looked uncertain, like she didn't know if they were going to leave her or tell her to come inside. They walked past her. She said something, we couldn't hear what, but they didn't stop. My dad got into the car. My mom paused near the passenger door. Looked at Claire. Then looked at me. And got in. They shut the doors. The car sat running for a few seconds. Claire didn't move. Then slowly the car pulled away from the curb and disappeared down the street. Claire stayed right where she was. Alone. Claire eventually stood up from the curb, but she didn't leave right away. She paced in small circles in the snow, rubbing her arms like it would help, her hair wet and sticking to the side of her face. At one point she looked back at the door and just stared at it. Not like she expected me to open it, but like she still didn't understand why I hadn't. I didn't give her the satisfaction of watching me watch her. I moved away from the window. I made cocoa for Ava. I lit a candle in the kitchen. I swept the floor. Because that's what you do when someone finally runs out of chances. You keep living. You stop waiting for them to change. You let them carry the weight alone. Eventually she disappeared. I never saw a car pick her up. Maybe someone did. Maybe she walked. Either way, the space on the curb where she sat was just a wet patch in the snow by the time the sun came up. The only thing she left behind was the gift, still sitting on the porch like some kind of peace offering. The corner of the box had come apart. Looked like whatever was inside had gotten wet and swollen out of shape. The foil paper had turned to mush. I left it there for a day. Ava didn't ask about it. She never mentioned her aunt again. On the second morning, I scooped it up with a snow shovel and dumped it straight into the trash can. No note. No curiosity. Just garbage where it belonged. A week later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. No name. Just, I'm trying. Please don't give up on me. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't respond. Claire had always been the kind of person who treated apologies like a fire extinguisher. Break glass only when the damage is already done. And always with the expectation that everyone would go back to pretending like nothing ever happened. Not this time. Ava had moved on faster than I expected. She stopped flinching when people talked about the holidays. She even asked if she could invite her godmother's daughter for a sleepover. I said yes. I watched them laugh on the couch and make popcorn in the microwave and wrap each other in blankets like burritos. That's when I really felt it. The peace. No tension sitting behind my ribs. No waiting for a phone call with another "can you help me just this once?" No guilt about saying no. No anxiety that if I left Ava with someone, something would happen and I'd never hear the truth. That's what I got back after cutting Claire off. The ability to breathe like a mother should. A few months later, a letter showed up in the mailbox. No return address. No stamp. Just folded paper and her handwriting on the front. Said my name. Not Sis. Not Nancy. Just my full name in shaky cursive. I stood in the kitchen holding it for maybe 5 minutes. I could feel the weight of it. I knew it was full of words she thought would make a difference. Words she probably rehearsed. Maybe she cried writing them. Maybe she didn't. I held it over the sink, struck a match and watched the paper curl and blacken into ash. Not out of anger. But because I didn't need it. Because nothing inside that envelope would change what she'd done. That's what people like Claire never understand. Forgiveness doesn't come from crying on a curb or writing the perfect apology. It doesn't come in a gift bag or a last-minute text. And it sure as hell doesn't come when you tell a 7-year-old to lie to her mother. Forgiveness, real forgiveness, takes work. Humility. Time. Accountability. She didn't do the work. She just performed the fall. And I don't owe her the applause. So no, I never forgave Claire. Not because I enjoy holding grudges, but because she never truly asked to be forgiven. She just wanted to be let back in. And the door? It stayed closed.